Good morning, March 14th, 2013. Edition of Doug Pagitt Radio, broadcasting live out of the Twin Cities, out of Peacedale Studios.
The new Pope edition.
The
Can
new.
you dig it? Can you dig it?
Mm.
Can you dig it?
Yeah, the Pope edition of Doug Pagitt Radio. It has come to my attention that some people are not aware of that fantastic movie clip.
I don't know what movie that is.
Well, this is the religious radio. That's not quite right, but it's also going to be great movies from 1979 and 80 that people should know about. Edition of Doug Pagitt Radio. I have a friend named Tim Nelson who I think listens regularly, and he knows all kinds of movies. He's a big movie buff. Tim.
Yeah.
He's
a movie nerd.
He's a movie nerd, and he doesn't know about this movie called The Warriors.
Okay.
Are you unfamiliar with this movie, The Warriors?
I don't know. You know, I was about 7 in
1979?
1979.
That
so
would be perfect. I was 14.
Or no, I was 8.
Okay. You need to know this movie.
Okay.
There's just, in my mind, if you're going to understand Doug Pagitt Radio, religious radio, that's not quite right. There's two movies to set in the context of this. They're both
really?
worth watching. Yeah.
You didn't tell me this as a prerequisite to my sidekick work.
I think people should sort of suss this out for themselves and be able to put this all together.
Oh, really?
Yeah. One of them is The Warriors, 1979 classic.
Okay, I'm writing this down.
The Warriors. It's on Instant Queue over on Netflix, which, by the way, has nothing else to watch. Netflix. It has become, other than House of Cards, which is a great TV show.
That's on
Their
there.
own, yeah.
I
It's
need a new
produced
show.
by Netflix.
That's
it's
with
a Netflix.
that guy I
it's
like.
It's with that guy you like. Type that in. What's that show with that guy I like into Google? And
What's his name?
so how
again?
come Google can't do that for you? How come if they're going to gather all this
Get
information?
in my brain already.
Why can't, it's got information about, and they would happen to know that Kevin Spacey's someone you've liked
Yes,
before. And you should be like, that guy I liked that was in that movie that was really great. And it should pull up like 16 people. And you're like, that's the one. Totally should be
Kind
able
of
to do
like
that.
when you ask Siri for coffee. And here's a list of 14 coffee shops near
Yes.
you. That guy I like.
Come
Here's the 5 guys you
That-
like.
that you've said to other people, I really like that movie. That guy in there. Oh, but
Warriors.
No, The Warriors. It's on
Kevin
Instant Queue.
Spacey is in it?
No. Kevin Spacey's not in it. There's a few, maybe a few famous people from the 80s in it. It's a classic. And the other movie is Billy Jack.
Billy Jack. I don't know this either.
Seriously?
Like
the word, the name
pop culture
of the movie
awareness
Billy
is
Jack
really spotty.
hit you like
With
a
nothing.
brand new idea. Really?
Yeah.
All right.
So why
Some weekend when
is
you
that
are,
something that's really embarrassing to admit? Like, does everybody know what Billy Jack is? Listeners,
I have assumed so.
get online and
I have
let me know.
assumed.
Am I crazy? Like, is everybody supposed to know Billy Jack? Well, so inform me. Why should I watch Billy Jack? Why should I waste some of my life?
For me, Billy Jack he's a character in a movie.
Okay.
And
What's the name of the movie? Is that the name of the movie?
Billy Jack.
Okay. Just checking.
And that's his name in the movie,
Uh-huh.
Billy. He's a former Vietnam vet, and he comes back and he's got some anger issues, and
Yeah.
he's living with a peacenik wife who is helping the Indian population, the native population, the native population's hippie woman in New Mexico, Arizona area, and he is the white power structure there, including the sheriff in the town and the mayor, are really hard on these poor Indian kids. They're trying to go to this kind of hippie school. And Billy Jack has to come to their rescue.
Oh.
With fist and feet.
You
I wrote
like
about
that?
Billy Jack in a little book called A Christianity Worth Believing.
I don't
as the
remember that part.
As the formative picture for me of how one would understand what God's agenda should be in the world when I was a kid. So when I was 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, I was thinking, like, that's what I want to do with my life. I want to be the kind of person that rights wrongs the way Billy Jack does.
Well, that's pretty noble.
And then Jesus was a much better version of that, because violence wasn't the only way to overcome oppression.
Right.
The Jesus narrative. So anyway,
So Jesus was like the Martin Luther King of Billy Jack, like.
Jesus gets to have his own category. Yeah. No, I mean,
Jesus was the Jesus.
Martin Luther
of
King kind
Billy
of gets to be
Jack.
the Jesus
Yeah.
of the civil rights movements, maybe. I don't know.
I'm trying to sort my way.
Yeah,
through here.
you've got enough to be sorting out that you don't know Billy Jack quite yet.
Into
But
movies
it's
I
going
cannot
to all
help you.
It's
Leave
going
me
to
with
all
my
change.
books.
But anyway, so last night I was in a conversation, and Tim is not familiar with this line from the Warriors.
Can you dig it?
And it runs through my head
Can you dig it?
every day.
Every day you think
Every
about
day
that
at some
line.
well, maybe not every single day, but nearly every day there is some point at which I find myself thinking like, can you dig it? And I said it last night to him, and he looked at me the way you looked at me when I mentioned Billy Jack, like it was a totally new notion. Well, so anyway, when you find yourself trapped at home and you're sick on some day and there's nothing else on Netflix because you're tired of watching conspiracy documentaries.
Well, I was going to say, most of the documentaries nominated for Oscars are streamable on Netflix. So
Yeah,
there
that tells
is
you
that.
a lot. It tells you a lot.
They're all in my queue.
Well, it's totally worth looking at the Warriors.
Alrighty.
Yeah, when you find yourself.
I'm excited about House of Cards.
Oh, terrific. House of Cards.
I need a new
Fantastic.
show.
Good for them. Hey, it is March 14th edition, which means it's Serious Nerd Day today.
It's the wrong kind of nerdness.
Math Nerd Day.
Yeah,
It's
I don't.
It's
I can't do math
3.14 day. It's pi.
I
It's Pi
know,
Day,
but
and that doesn't mean pumpkin and pecan.
I
It
know what
means-
pi is, but I'm not very adept navigating
No, you don't have to. You
mathematical
just no.
concepts.
It's like atheists at Christmas. You don't have to actually
I mean,
buy the whole
seriously,
thing or
do
know what they're
math
talking
nerds
about.
get excited
oh,
about
do
this
math
day?
nerds get excited about this day? There are drinking parties. There are little parades
Aren't
with not
those
many
just
people because they aren't
fake?
math nerds.
I mean, that's kind of like saying that people in the occult get excited about Halloween. I mean, they don't really get excited about Halloween.
That's
Everybody else does.
no, it's more like saying, "Oh, the Irish don't actually get all revved up this weekend on March 17th." Oh yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do. That's
yes,
true.
they
All
sure
right.
do.
So the math nerds are all out drinking.
This is your day, math nerds.
Have they started already?
Well, depending on where they are,
Don't
I'm
they
assuming.
need their faculties for a math nerd day, or do they get to coast it out and just sort
Yeah,
of?
most of them are personal tutors to people, and that kind of stuff. They don't actually have real jobs. They're like coaching kids on ACT tests after school. No,
Okay.
no, they're making the world better. They're engineers, and they're
I
they're all
think
these
that a
people.
lot of them are
Oh.
doing quite well.
I'm
Thank
just
you
saying,
very
listeners,
much.
if you find yourself moving about today and you see someone, it's not a bad idea to just say, "Happy Pi Day," just in case the person's like an engineer or a statistician or something else. It's a big day for those guys. The Big
Yeah.
Bang Theory crowd.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. There you
Delicious.
go.
Speaking of that, we're going to have Jonathan Dudley on the show today.
Yeah, speaking of the Big Bang.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose
no.
so.
He just-
Maybe.
He's a bit of a smarty pants nerd guy.
Yeah, he.
Jonathan
kinda
Dudley has
is.
written a book called Broken Words: The Abuse of Science and Faith in American Politics.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a little take that maybe faith and science are both taking a pounding in American politics.
He's got a critique of evangelicalism.
He does, yeah, and the kind of moralistic turn that religion has taken in American religious life. So it's going to be
Yeah.
quite interesting.
Blend a historical looking.
And we're going to have David Hayward on. David is a Canadian. He's going to be our first guest. It's a day of firsts around here. It's our first 3.14 day radio show. I don't think we've had one on this day before, so it's a high holiday
We
for the
have
people
had
who make
Canadians on before.
for the people who make all of the things that make this radio show work. That's what's funny about these little math nerds. You can make fun of them.
But
None of this would happen without them.
I
They're
know that's right.
They're the
Those-
reason for the season. These people.
They are. Yeah.
Well, David Hayward, yeah, sure. We've had Canadians on before, but I think David Hayward is our first guest from the Atlantic time zone.
Oh.
Did you know that there's another time zone east of Eastern time zone?
No.
We're Central, so right now it's
Yeah.
10:10. It's 11:10 in New York.
Mm-hmm.
It's 12:10 in the Atlantic time zone,
Oh, jeez.
where David Hayward is.
I can't even keep the time zones that I know about
How-
straight.
Tell me about it. How does this poor guy ever have a conversation with anybody west of him? Who would possibly know what time it is? Yeah, so he's another hour ahead. David Hayward is so far ahead. He's a whole other hour ahead. But he started a thing called The Lasting Supper.
Mm-hmm.
It's a play on The Last Supper.
Yes.
Oh, you know of that one? You're familiar with that popular icon. Okay. I'm now seriously challenging your pop icon capabilities, sidekick Victoria. But the Last Supper has this notion of Jesus and the Last Supper, and then David puts together this online community of alternative Christians where they can connect and talk and discuss, called the Lasting Supper. David Hayward is a clever fella.
Mm-hmm.
He might be more clever than all the other guests Lord God has made.
Really?
And he's a cartoonist. He's the naked pastor. He cartoons as the naked pastor. That's the guy.
Oh.
He's also David Hayward. He's not just the naked pastor.
I didn't know that the naked
So David,
pastor.
yeah. So I mean, we have a plum full day.
I know. How are we going to manage?
It is 314 day, which means so many things.
Maybe
to so many
because
people.
pi goes on into infinity, time
show-
will bend for
The
us.
show will
and-
feel
yeah,
as if
yeah.
it has moved into some sort of a time bend. Like, my God, are they still talking? How can that possibly? Is it really like those of you who take the the half-hour segments of the show as like your partner on your run? I take a lot of podcasts on my runs, and I'll sort of know like I'm going to get 3 of these in on a run or 4 of these in on a run, and it kind of paces you, kind of gives you a structure. People are going to be like, seriously, is the half hour not up yet? Are these people still talking?
I'm pretty sure.
But also, scientists are quite excited today. I don't know if you've seen this, but they are as certain as a physicist is going to be that they have confirmed the Higgs boson particle.
Oh, so what's
This is a
special
super big,
about
this
that
is a
particle?
super big deal. Look, there are
I'm going to trust you on that, but
the way that the category of understandings that human beings have used to explain the universe and therefore themselves, and as the correlating partners in conversations of philosophy, for sure science, health, religion, personal growth, are deeply shaped by our understandings and expectations of what we believe is true about the cosmos. Human beings want to have some kind of parallel when they describe how things are in the world with the field of study and interest that they're engaged in. So you'll hear people, more so in the late 80s and early 90s, say about psychological work or temperament stuff like, well, that's really how you're wired. Right? They would say that's really, you're kind of wired like that. And because we started to think about nerve endings and nerves in the brain, but also because of the analogy of electricity and wiring.
sure.
So with that, I mean, in 1520, no one said that's just
how you're
seriously
wired.
how you're wired, right? We took this whole notion that you're put together like inside of a machine. You can see how the wiring goes. There are people who will describe their own sensibilities, their own personal development, religion, in terms of what they think is true about the universe and the cosmos. So if you think that the universe is settled and finished and complete and in an act of decay, you will then structure your worldview, your religion, your philosophies around that kind of notion, because you just say, that's how things are. Well, early 1900s, there were a series of discoveries about the nature of the cosmos. Electromagnetism coming out of the late 1800s, of course, what Einstein suggests about space and time being connected, about relativity, special and general relativity, and a couple of contemporaries of Einstein suggesting that there is something that gives all particles their shape and their size. In other words, something that gives them mass. What is it that makes something have mass? If it's true that all of the cosmos at its core level is actually energy. If everything is energy, how does it have stability?
Right.
What gives it mass?
Right.
How does an energy particle carry the shape and size to have mass to interact with other energy particles to create this sensibility of mass? What is the thing that makes that have mass?
Or what is the thing that holds these individual energies together?
Yeah, not so much what's the glue that holds them together. What gives it particular shape so that you could have certain kinds of particles?
Okay.
They suggested there is something that in an energy field, a particle interacts with something, and when it interacts with that something, that's what gives it mass. That's the Peter Higgs and others, suggested that's what's now called the Higgs boson particle, also called the God particle by physicists. In other words, what makes things things? So the whole God particle, well, they built this big collider to replicate the Big Bang Theory, right? Not the TV show, but the theory.
Right,
So
I know.
they wanted to go back and crash things together to see what's at that moment of creation. This is what created the angels and demons backdrop for that Dan Brown book, right? When the Pope wanted to stop the creating because they thought you're going to create a black hole and it's going to mess up creation and all that. So that's sort of the background of this. So they wanted to recreate, and they did it, and now they've been looking at their studies, and today, the 14th of March, you tell me that's not related to the great coming together of the Pi Day. They feel like as much as they can say yes, yes, yeah, and they, look, 50 years people have been saying the Higgs boson particle is real. But what they were afraid of was that there was something else as well. And there's still a little wonder, well, okay, there's a Higgs boson particle, but is there something else that's going to give, that's part of this equation?
Right.
So all that to say, when we start thinking about issues like the Higgs boson in relationship to the rest of our lives, we begin to realize that maybe it's the interactions that give shape and size. You
That's pretty
always
exciting.
exist interrelationally.
Well, and we've been talking about this in our gatherings as we discuss Mark at Solomon's Porch. This idea that when Jesus talks about that maybe our way of understanding the feeding of the 5,000 or the two feedings that happened there, and then when he says avoid the yeast of the Pharisees, is the idea of the way things connect together, or like the synergy between things are part of what shape the world. And that gives us all a great deal of responsibility and opportunity, but also can go either way.
So there was this cat in the mid 50s, a guy that I met and did a lot of great work in his life, who started an organization called Campus Crusade for Christ. His name is Bill, not Bill Jack, Bill Bright, and he reformed some views of evangelicalism and Christianity in North American expression of Christianity called evangelicalism, and said, just as there are physical laws that govern the physical universe, so are there spiritual laws that govern your relationship with God. Law 1.
And then he made
God
a
loves you and is
pamphlet.
wonderful love for your life. Law 2. Man is sinful and separate from God. Law 3. Each person must personally respond.
Yeah.
No, I missed a law. Somewhere. There's a law in there. But
there's the one with the cross that goes over the cavern.
But what he was doing there was making the correlation that just as the physical world is like this, so is the spiritual world like this. That is a practice that people have been engaging in for as long as there's been humanity, I would suggest. That's what we do. That's what human beings do. Just as it is in this physical world, so it is in the more full spiritual world. Now when you start to say, just as it is in the physical world, that there are not laws, there are interactions, so it is in the spiritual world. Now let's talk about religion shaped in that cultural context rather than in the
Well, I think
Newton
that's something we should talk to
context.
John Dudley about,
Boom.
too. Because I think he would have some interesting
Well,
things
let's
to
ask
say
old
about
John
that.
Dudley, because he's just
you
he's just a
remember?
Yale graduate and a John Hopkins medical student. I don't know if he
he's
knows
just a
anything about physics.
Fancy schmancy.
So, big day. Also big day because we got ourselves a pope. We have a Pope Francis.
The first.
I don't know if you
Francis.
know. I don't know if you know, but in the conclave, they had hidden recording devices. Did you hear about this?
I did hear about this.
Hidden recording devices, and the hidden recording devices. This came out after he was named Pope.
The name's Francis Sawyer. But everybody calls me Psycho. Any of you guys call me Francis, and I'll kill you. You just made the list, buddy. And I don't like nobody touching my stuff. So just keep your meat hooks off. If I catch any of you guys in my stuff, I'll kill you. Also, I don't like nobody touching me. Now, any of you homos touch me, and I'll kill you.
Lighten up, Francis.
All right, do you know that movie reference?
No.
Oh, my goodness. A little movie called Stripes with Bill
geez.
Murray. No?
Do I have to watch that one too?
Yes, you have to watch Stripes.
I
Instantly, when the Pope was announced and he was taking on the name Pope Francis, I immediately thought, don't call me Francis. No, nobody else thought that? Fantastic. It's a little clip from the movie Stripes. It's not actually from the conclave. That wasn't the Pope saying to the others, now that I'm the Pope,
wasn't there some
don't
kind
touch
of
my
leak?
stuff.
A leak about
I
the
don't know.
conversation?
There may have been.
Probably not a recording.
Probably not. I think there's all kinds of leaks that come out about that. Well, I got to tell, okay. I know you've been begging for my opinion. What do I think about the new Pope?
I woke up thinking today's the day. I'm finally going to get it.
I mean, there are a number of people who are wondering, what does that guy think about the Pope? I mean, I'm gonna hold off judgment until I know. What does Doug think about the Pope? I couldn't be more thrilled. Knowing your options.
Yeah,
you're going to get one of these guys.
Yes.
Which means you're not going to get someone who's going to have a certain theological view that I'd be more comfortable with. You're not going to get someone who's going to be open to the kind of change in social morals of the Catholic Church at the start. You're not going to get that guy. So setting that aside, he's not a perfect. He's not going to carry all the assumptions I want to have, especially on gay marriage and on women in the priesthood and so on. But of all the other things you could have had, this guy, in my book, couldn't ask for more. Here he is. He's Latin American, big deal. Argentinian, fantastic, and maybe you've read this about him that he was he's a very humble fella. Yeah. He's a Jesuit.
To live in. Yep, he's a Jesuit.
Big deal that he's a Jesuit.
Vows of poverty.
But then, as a Jesuit, he picks the name of another order because in Catholicism, for those who don't know, the different orders, the Benedictines, like Benedict, Saint Francis, the Jesuits, they would be what if Catholicism didn't continue to stay together as one large communion, they would be different religions almost. I mean, they would be. So instead of fragmenting like that, they have these orders that you're a part of. This way that you do your Catholicism and your way of thinking as a Jesuit,
kind of like franchises.
Or as a large conglomerate might be.
Yeah.
So. For a Jesuit to pick a Franciscan name and for St. Francis, and a Pope hasn't picked Francis yet?
Yeah.
They've been waiting around for, this is St. Francis, is the guy that talks to animals and walks around naked in the park and takes on. The reason the Franciscans wear the clothes they wear is because he wanted to dress as humbly as possible. He's the humble guy. For a Jesuit to pick the name, the ethos of Francis.
Did you hear about the bus story?
Oh, that instead he gives up his driver, which he could have had as the
there's
archbishop.
that,
and he rides the bus.
But also yesterday at something, whatever, shindig, he was supposed to drive in this fancy car, and he didn't. All of a sudden, he starts coming off one of the regular buses with all the other regular.
This guy's going to be a breath of fresh air.
So it was pretty cute. You're like, oh, there's the Pope.
There's the Pope. Now, look, he's got to be careful because he's officially a head of state, and there's all kinds of things that, like, we don't want an assassinated Pope for sure. So there's going to be some protections around him, but the sensibilities seem to be there, and he really cares about the poor. Now,
yes, he truly does.
Would someone like me want him to care a lot more about liberation theology
and
give it a shot?
He had been on
and he doesn't, and he thinks it's not the way. But you can still care about the poor, without holding to liberation theology. Yes. And it's better to have a pope who said, "I'm not going to live in the fancy house at the archdiocese. I'm going to live in a little rented apartment with a small place. I'm going to cook my own meals. I'm going to take the bus like everyone else, and I'm going to say that conglomerates and that big organizations in the world tend to oppress the poor." If a guy's willing to say that about corporations, he believes that even big religious institutions can oppress the weak. Couldn't ask. Good. I mean, what?
And who knows
out of that
how
pick,
he'll evolve? What will evolve from him? No, I agree. I mean, I always want everything. But you're right. You can't have everything. This is sort of a role reversal for us. Usually I kind of a little bit more of a pragmatist.
Well, you know what this is like.
A little bit more of an idealist.
This is like, say, mid-November 2008.
Yeah.
Come on, Barack Obama. We got it. This is going to be great.
Yeah.
Then a couple years later, you're like, seriously, that guy?
On.
Come on, baby. Come on. Come on. Come on. Here we go. Here we go.
Yeah.
So it's not a gloves off on the Pope. Of course not, because the Catholic Church is still going to do things that are going to create a very difficult situation for people around the world and in religion that needs to be spoken out against and corrected. But boy, it's better to have Barack Obama than not. And boy, it's better to have Pope Francis
than not.
Don't call me Francis. You call me Francis, I kill you. I mean, it's going to get stuck in some people's heads, and every time they introduce him as Pope.
Notes of all these movies I have to watch. I mean, geez, I can't keep up.
Yes, well, put the book down and start watching some movies.
I don't know. I mean, I've just got a really great novel series going right now. I just don't think I can bear it.
It should be a rule for children. Put the books down, especially the ones that like to curl up on their beds all by themselves and read books. No. Get out there and watch a movie.
We've got a couple of those in my house.
Watch a
my
movie
daughter's
and
just
start quoting it.
The other day I came in the house we were somewhere, and I'm walking up the steps, and I was like, "Where's Murray?" I go back. She's still in the car sitting there reading. I was like, "Oh God, it could have been me as a kid."
She could have totally had.
She
totally could have been with a tablet watching a really great movie.
Sitting in the bathtub reading. I mean, it's just like, she's not of my same biology because she's adopted, but she might as well be in her reading habits.
Well, perhaps she has moved into your energy field, and you are like her Higgs boson that is giving her shape and size.
Maybe so.
Boom.
That's the scary thing about that. Like, you start to feel too influential. You know, you gotta.
Or perhaps one is only recognizing their influence.
Yeah.
Okay, so 3 quotes on a little to-do list for you next week. Can you dig it?
Okay.
Don't call me Francis.
There is no chance I'm going to have watched 3 movies by
Can you dig
week.
it? Don't call me Francis.
I can tell you there's no way.
How many books are you gonna spend time reading?
Maybe a couple. I might toss off a couple next week. No, I'm not giving up a
Can you dig
time
it?
for a movie.
Can you dig it? Don't call me Francis. And I'm going to put this foot.
I may watch House of Cards.
I'm going to put this foot on that side of your face, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it.
Where's that from?
Well, you're going to find out.
I have to
3 quotes, Victoria. There's going to be a pop quiz come next week. 3 quotes that will change your life.
No, I won't do it. You know I never.
All right, hey, we're going to talk to Jonathan Dudley, and I'm going to see if he has watched either the movie Stripes, Warriors, or Billy Jack.
I bet he hasn't. I bet he hasn't.
We're going to ask David Hayward, too. I bet he has. He's middle-aged.
Yeah, but I bet John Dudley hasn't.
All right, so we're going to be back with Jonathan Dudley here on Doug Pagitt Radio.
If he hasn't seen him, am I off the hook?
No, not off the hook. So we're going to be back after the break. Doug Pagitt Radio broadcasting live out of the Twin Cities and around the world, maybe even on the State Station. Be Still Studios. Now.